find ourselves the past 2 weeks. I've been stumbling on the process of uncovering a series of talks on the Eightfold Path. And so last week I covered the first factor of the Eightfold Path, right view. So that means tonight I'm going to cover the second factor of the Eightfold Path, right intention. And so the Eightfold Path is the program the Buddha outlined for us to free ourselves from suffering. And so in whatever way you experience suffering, right, through grief, through anxiety, through depression, through addiction, in whatever way, this seems like an appropriate path to follow to free ourselves from the suffering around those very human qualities. And so this is a very practical path, and I want to emphasize that this is something you do. That there's nothing mystical about this or metaphysical about this. That this is, like I said, a practical path. That the Buddha was just a regular guy. That we have these statues, and occasionally we may bow to the statues and all of that, but we are not worshiping the Buddha. The Buddha found this path 2,600 years ago, and now we have the opportunity to become a Buddha ourselves. So sometimes we say, don't be a Buddhist, be a Buddha. So we can awaken the same exact way that Siddhartha Gautama, the guy we call the Buddha, did 2,600 years ago. And so luckily, he pragmatically outlined this in a way for us to do it. And this is through the Eightfold Path. And so to overview what the Eightfold Path is, we have these 8 factors. We have right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And you may notice that these 8 factors are divided into 3 sections. So this first section we have here is the wisdom section, the wisdom factors of right view and right intention, which we'll be going over tonight. And then in the weeks to come, we'll be covering these ethical factors of the Eightfold Path, right speech, right action, right livelihood. Because any good program needs an ethical portion, right? And then the last of these factors is the meditation factors, like our trainings in our meditations of right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So to back it up a little bit, I want to look at this word wisdom. If I'm talking about the factor of right intention, that how it goes into this section of wisdom, I think it's only fair for me to tease out what that word wisdom means in a Buddhist perspective. And the word for it in Pali Sanskrit, the traditional teaching of the Buddha, is panya. Panya, you may hear. And so in our modern culture, we sometimes confuse wisdom with intellect. That somebody knows a lot on a subject, and they've read all the books, and they watched all the documentaries, and they've read every study on a topic. We may think they're very wise, but not necessarily. They may just know a lot of intellect about it. And the trouble is when we confuse wisdom with intellect, sometimes it gets really crazy, right? We may believe that we need to know everything to free ourselves from suffering, that we may have to read every book, we may have to memorize every sutta in the Pali Canon, and what that does is turn into a sense of craving. Like, oh, I gotta more, and there's just too much. It's endless if we go in that way. And even in the time of the Buddha, he acknowledged this. Like, he was with a group of monks, and they were out in the forest, and they were looking around the forest. And they were talking about this aspect of wisdom. And the Buddha said, look around. You see all these leaves? That's like all the information we have in the world. Countless amount of leaves. So many leaves. And there's no way we can know every single one of the leaves in the forest. And he reaches down and he picks up some leaves and puts it in his hand. He says, this is all you need. This is all you need, a handful of intellect, a handful of knowledge to have deep wisdom. And so, with that said, we also need a handful. We need a handful of intellect. We need a handful of know-how so we could put it into practice. And that's why I think these 8 factors, I love going over and over and over again, because when we memorize them with our intellect, it guides us on the path of discovering deep wisdom. So wisdom is this intellect put into practice. And so it's good to memorize these things. And the way I've memorized this is through repetition. I'll go to the talks. I'll go to, meditations, practice all these Dharma talks, and over again, you'll just hear these things, and it'll just become natural. Like when I first moved to Nashville, I had to use my GPS everywhere, like to get to work, and I put my work in the GPS, and I'd drive, and I'd drive and drive, until someday I just didn't need that GPS anymore because I knew the path I was going. And so that's what this intention is with the Eightfold Path. Listen to it, know it, memorize it to a certain degree, but keep coming back and keep learning it, because when we know it by heart, what happens is we enter into this first factor of the Eightfold Path, right view. And so this view is, you ever notice that how you view the world dictates a lot of suffering or happiness? And so when we start living this Dharma, living this Eightfold Path, it changes our perspective on the world. We start seeing things in a little bit more clear way. And when we see things a little bit more clearly, there's less suffering there. And so in this factor, right view, right? That's what I covered last week, but just to go over it and how it goes well with this right intention, one of the ways we look at right view is looking at the Four Noble Truths. I'm not going to go over the Four Noble Truths completely, but the beauty of the Four Noble Truths is this acknowledgement of suffering and its end. And so we acknowledge that everything in life is impermanent. Nothing lasts. Everything changes. And because everything is in constant change, life hurts a lot. Life is pretty painful. It's hard to find any ground in a very groundless world. And so what that leads us to is grasping on to external conditions that are impermanent. And when we're continually grasping on to impermanent conditions, it's so stressful, it's unresting. And so when we just let go and allow life to rise and pass, and we change our relationship to life, that's the end of suffering. The end of suffering is about our relationship to life, not necessarily life itself. And so when we start to view the world in that way and going, yeah, life is allowed to suck sometimes. What's my relationship to the suckiness? Am I compassionate towards it, or am I hateful? Maybe I should try this compassion thing. Because when we start being compassionate towards pain, what happens? It's a habit we create. And so this is the other factor that I look at in right view. Karma. Karma is a very confusing word. But in the Buddhist tradition, all it means is cause and effect. You get good at whatever you practice. If you practice compassion, you'll get skilled at compassion. If you practice hate, you'll get skilled at hate. So let's make a point to create a skill in being loving, nurturing, and kind, and develop that skill over and over again, because that's the end of suffering. And so, with this understanding that that's the agency we have, we can't control life so much. Sure, we can influence some things in life, but ultimately, we can't control life. But we can control our relationship to life. And so, that leads us to right intention. Samma Sankappa. Right intention, we use this word intention in so many ways, but in this context, it doesn't necessarily mean goal. It doesn't mean something far off. It means, how am I meeting this experience? It's really a mindfulness practice. Mindfulness comes from this word sati, S-A-T-I, and it was in the late 1800s. A British scholar named Rhys David went over to Sri Lanka to translate a lot of these old Buddhist texts, and he came across this word sati, translated into the word mindfulness that we have today. Pretty good word for sati. But if we look at the literal translation for the word sati, it means to remember. So like mindfulness is of breathing. As you're lost in the stories, the judgment, plans, and fantasies, remember to come back to the breath. When we're stressed out and disembodied, remember to come back to the body. So with right intention, remember to come back with a certain attitude. That's what we're doing. Remember to have a certain attitude. Remember to have certain thoughts. Remember to incline the mind in this way. And so, as we remember to maintain certain thoughts, the Buddha made it pretty clear on what is right intention. Before we back it up, let me back it up. I want to tell you a story. I love story time. I've been talking too many dry lessons. Let's tell a story. So with this practice of right intention, I don't know how many of you have been a part of our New Year's intention setting ceremony, right? Yeah, we get these little fun chords. Yeah, Debbie's got them. And so we have these chords as mindfulness practices. We put little knots in them, and they represent our intentions, so we remember to have our intentions. So in the middle of the night, we all get together, and we have a little ritual. We all set an intention for the year, right? Not a goal, an intention. Because goal is like pass-fail. Intention is you can keep on coming back to that intention. So it's quite beautiful to hear people talk about their intentions. They get up in front of the room, and we get like really ritualistic, and we light candles, and we bow, and we chant, and it's awesome, right? And so I hear people say, oh, my intention is to be kind to myself. And my intention is to motivate myself. My intention is to be accepting. My intention is to all of these different things. You remember your intention? Peace and love. Yeah, keep that peace and love, right? And this is this one that was pivotal to me. One year I did it, and what came to mind is like really what I needed to maintain that full year was to have fun. You know, sometimes fun gets on the back burner for me, and it's like, oh, I gotta maintain this intention of having fun. So, as the year went on, I remembered, have fun. In any moment, how can I have fun in this moment? And so by my house, a couple miles from my house is Percy Priest Lake. And I occasionally ride my bike to Percy Priest Lake. And one day I'm out there hanging out Percy Priest Lake, seeing the beautiful sight. It's like awesome. And a thought jumps into my mind, hey, you should jump in the lake. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get my clothes wet. No, the water's too cold. And then I look down, oh, I see this little string on my arm, have fun. So now I got to. So I jump in the lake. Ooh, it's cold, but it was fun. So I remember to prioritize fun. That was my intention. So this is something I do quite often, even in the morning. It's like, what's your intention for today? What does this heart need, and how can I meet it? You know, so setting an intention, a daily intention, can be helpful. And so now I want to talk about the more technical. What did the Buddha say about what's right intention, right? And what he said was actions of body, speech, and mind coming from a motive of renunciation, a motive of goodwill, and coming from a motive of non-harming. This is right intention. So he specifically outlined 3 right intentions. Right? Thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of goodwill, and thoughts of non-harming. So I want to outline these a little bit and look at how we can practice these 3 so-called right intentions, these wholesome intentions. One of which is to maintain mindfulness. First step, let's have some mindfulness. And it was in the discourse on, it's called 2 kinds of thought. The Buddha gave. He said, before his awakening, he discovered this path of mindfulness of discerning thoughts and knowing which thoughts are wholesome and which thoughts are unwholesome. And wholesome versus unwholesome really means like which ones dictate a lot of suffering and which thoughts dictate happiness. And so he used this discerning quality and put them in categories. So thoughts of greed, thoughts of hatred, thoughts of harming, let's put it on that side of unwholesome. Leads to suffering. And then thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of goodwill, thoughts of non-harming, let's put it on this wholesome side. And anytime these qualities arise, having that discernment of going, okay, now I see this, now I have my options open. Let's try to go with the wholesome side as much as possible. And so thoughts of renunciation. How do we have thoughts of renunciation, right? Renunciation is such a, what a gross word, right? Not the most attractive word, right? Especially in our modern culture when there's so much rad shit, like we live in a very materialistic world, and I'm guilty of it too. I love my stuff, right? So what does that even mean? Am I supposed to like give up all my stuff and shave my head and give up my house and put on robes? Is that renunciation? Maybe, maybe. But it's like in our also modern times of like, hyper capitalism, it's like everywhere we look, we're being sold something. But it's not just unique to us right now. Even in the time of the Buddha, people were extremely materialistic. So, on one occasion, Ananda, the Buddha's assistant and younger cousin, he was a very smart guy. Like I talk about intellect, very smart guy, not very wise. So he knew a lot about the Dharma. He memorized a lot of the things the Buddha said, but putting into practice, he was kind of sketchy. So one day he's out talking the Dharma with people. He's talking to a particular group of lay people, what we call householders, people that are not monks and nuns. And as he's talking to them, they ask a question. I said, what's up with this like renunciation thing? Like, we're like regular people. We like have families. We have stuff. I like my stuff. But I see all these happy monks and nuns. What's up with that? What makes them so happy? Like, are we supposed to give up our stuff? Like, that idea of giving up my stuff, like, I just don't, it doesn't really make me joyous and happy like it does those monks and nuns. And Ananda was like, yeah, good point. Why are monks and nuns so happy? They don't have anything. So they go to the Buddha. And then the Buddha, he gets asked the same question. Why are these, monks and nuns that gave up everything so happy? Is everybody supposed to give up everything? And what he said was, when we go to a place of renunciation, giving up, letting go, we want to look at the harm that's created by our consumption, by our, consumption is a good word for it, right? And I think that's a really helpful thing because it's not black and white sin versus virtue. That, even the big debate of meat, right? Do Buddhists eat meat? Well, see your relationship to the meat. Do Buddhists drink alcohol? Well, see your relationship to the alcohol. Know the harm that's created and see for yourself. And that's our barometer. Like, we know within our hearts what is appropriate to us. We just got to look. And so looking at what renunciation is in that way tends to give me a more hopeful view of renunciation and what we call the bliss of blamelessness. When we give up something and it's creating a lot of harm in our lives, harm with our loved ones, harm with ourselves, when we let it go and set it aside and not need it, oh my gosh, it's a beauty that happens. The saying that self-esteem is built by doing esteemable acts. It's such an esteemable act to just say, no, I don't need that. I don't need the alcohol. I don't need the meat. I don't need the gossip. I don't need the resentments. No, I don't need that. Not needing anything extra. Not helpful. Those are creating harm in my life. I set that aside, and then a joy arises from that. And I've seen it a million times. I work in addiction recovery. I'm a person in addiction recovery. And being like a very close and intimate support for a lot of people, what I see happens is somebody gives up drugs, they're an addict. But then they're like, okay, that was awesome. What else? They give up alcohol. They're like, what else? And they give up meat. What else? And they get really this joyous, almost addiction to giving things up, right? And some of that's wholesome, some of it's not. What's the relationship to giving things up? But I've seen it happen a lot. So renunciation is almost like this counteract to craving and greed, right? What's the opposite of renunciation? My sense of well-being is reliant on having more and more and more. Something's not in my experience, and my sense of well-being is reliant on that thing being here. Right? And so when we renounce, we say, oh, I'm cool as I am right now. And how do we become cool? In many ways, but one of which I like is gratitude. Be grateful for what you have. I'm not saying give up everything you have. Be grateful for what you have. I'm grateful for what I have. I don't need anything extra. I'm grateful for the socks on my feet. I'm grateful for this awesome building. I'm grateful for the air conditioning. And can we have that inclination, that habit, if we're talking about karma, a habit of gratitude? And the more and more we remember, like I said, mindfulness, remember to come back with gratitude, that will be our inclination. And we will be more likely to renounce things that are harmful to us. And so the second right intention is goodwill. And goodwill, right off the bat, I want to talk about what it's counteract to, ill will, hatred. And this ill will is a tough one. The Buddha called it the honey-tipped dart. That there's this dart, it has sweet honey on the end of it, and then it hits you. And it's sweet at first, but as it sinks into your skin, it hurts like a fucker. So that's sometimes this ill will when we're talking shit about somebody or gossiping or we're hating somebody. There's a sweetness at first. There's a spike that happens. But after that spike, guilt arises, these gross feelings arise, and then these resentments and hate become extremely heavy. And I'm speaking from experience here. That when I talk about the weight and the burden of resentment and hatred, it has led me on a path of depression. It is just so much to carry around. And can I renounce my hatred and let the load off, right? And so how do we let the load off of our hatred, of our hateful mind or judgmental mind, right? It's through goodwill. And most often in goodwill, we practice what we call metta, M-E-T-T-A, loving kindness. And this has been pivotal in my life as a person who lives with depression and is pretty well in remission from depression. It's loving kindness. And so in loving kindness meditation, what we do, we say phrases over and over again. May I be at ease, may I be at peace, may I be kind and gentle with myself, may I be filled with loving kindness. And I'm telling stories. I'm going to tell another story. You may have heard it before. But there was a certain point in my life when I was experiencing a great deal of depression. And I was very dedicated to unlocking myself from this depression. And so I would wake up early in the morning, even though it was like hell waking up. You know, that depressed mind, I don't want to wake up. But I was determined. So I'd wake up every morning and do loving kindness meditation. I'd do it to myself, saying those things to myself over and over again. May I be at ease, may I be at peace, may I be kind and gentle with myself, may I be filled with loving kindness. And I'd create that habit. And then I'd get up, go to work. And when I went to work, I was working at a restaurant. In this restaurant, I started my day at 9 a.m. doing prep. And as I was doing prep, I would start with the tomatoes. As I was cutting the tomatoes, thinking, may I be at ease, may I be at ease, may I be at ease, chopping tomatoes with loving kindness. And then it was onions time. May I be at peace, may I be at peace. As my eyes were like stinging, right? May I be at peace, may I be at peace. And then I'd do the salads. May I be kind and gentle with myself. And then I'd do the veggies for the hummus, you know. May I be filled with loving kindness. And then time would start for the lunch crowd to come, 11 a.m. That's when I would switch from prep to go to the front of the house. And as I was ready and there's a line out the door, my mind starts, you know. As any of you worked in restaurants, you see the line out the door, where does your mind go? Yeah, okay. It's like, God, these people are bothering me. Oh, you know, the customers are like our enemies, right? That didn't work for me, because what happens was if I followed that unwholesome mind state, what happened was it was a lot to carry, and I'd get exhausted. And when I got exhausted, I would have to leave early. Who's first cut? I want to be first cut. I'm depressed, right? And I wouldn't make any money. So if I started my day with loving kindness, from 11 to 12, I thought, may you be at ease to every single person that walked through the door. May you be at ease, may you be at ease, may you be at ease. And purposely said this, not out loud, but within my mind, inclining my mind to wish well every person. That gave me a little energy. It was less heavy than the burden of hate. And then from noon to 1, may you be at peace, may you be at peace, may you be at peace, may you be at peace. And then from 1 to 2. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be kind and gentle with yourself, and then so on, right? And this practice of being diligent and repetitive created that neural habit that these days, loving kindness is a default in my mind, to be real, right? Not to brag, but my mind is quite loving these days because I stayed diligent in that way. And like I said, depression's a million miles away right now. But I have to keep this up because I know what's on the other end. And so thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of goodwill, and then we have this last one that I'll go over briefly, is thoughts of non-harming. Thoughts of non-harming. And so thoughts of non-harming, we can look at the opposite of this one as well. Thoughts of harmfulness. My first teacher, his name is Claude Anshin Thomas. He is a Vietnam veteran and Buddhist monk. So he's been through a wild ride. And he is somewhat of a peace advocate. And he looks at this product of, karma, cause and condition. And he is quite radically honest. And he talks about, at 17 years old, he went off to Vietnam. And he's like, I killed whole villages of people. I've watched people die, and I have killed people. Right? And listening to him talk about that just so upfront is quite real. And he says that the conditioning he went through to be able to kill another person, what the conditioning was, that he had to lose track of the person's humanity. He was trained in the military to not look at another person's humanity. The Vietnamese people, through racism and ethnocentrism, right? They're subhuman. So it didn't matter if you wiped out whole villages. So if you wanted to end the violence, what he needed to do is witness another's humanity. And he says that when you see somebody else's humanity, it's impossible to hurt them intentionally. Right? When we know their humanity, when you know all beings long for love, all beings experience pain and heartache just like we all do. And when we are upfront with that honesty and witness it in another person, it's really hard to hurt them on purpose. And so this is the practice of non-harming. It's quite compassionate. Compassion is a heartfelt presence for pain, being in company of what hurts. So not only with our own pain, but others' pain. And anybody we see, we know, okay, this person experiences pain. One of my students, we have a phrase, we go, you too. Not like the band, but you too experience pain. And so anytime we have some sort of that person, I don't like them that much. But you too experience pain. You too experience heartache. You too have been through all the things we go through. And it was really fun. One day he texted me. He was at a baseball game at Brave Stadium. And he took a picture of everybody out in the crowd. He goes, you too. That everybody in that whole stadium experiences pain, suffering, loss, hurt. And it's a quite beautiful acknowledgement, because I think that's what leads to a lot of non-harming when we see the vulnerability of people. So, right intention. 3 right intentions. The intention of renunciation, of letting go, not needing anything extra. The intention of goodwill, loving kindness. The intention of non-harming, compassion. And so I want to put this into practice and do a bit of meditation around this. And typically what we can do is, one of my favorite practices is loving kindness meditation. We're talking about that second intention being a practice of loving kindness, or metta. And so to look back at what the Buddha taught on metta, right? There's so many wonderful lessons in the traditional teachings of the time of the Buddha, or what he taught around metta, that spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outward and unbounded, in all directions may all beings be at ease. This is what he taught on loving kindness. And he also taught it like radiating loving kindness in all directions to all beings everywhere, right? And so if we look at what the Buddha taught on this, it's like just like this kind of Just indiscriminate kindness in all directions. Okay, how do we do that, though? So it was about 800 years after the Buddha, in the 5th century, a guy named Buddhaghosa wrote a manual on how to actually practice these practices that the Buddha was talking about. Not just, okay, let's sit still and radiate loving kindness in all directions. Luckily, Buddhaghosa gave us a game plan. So in the Visuddhimagga, this practice manual, what he decided was using phrases. And I think this is very appropriate. And like I said, these are the phrases we use are, may I be at ease, may I be at peace, may I be kind and gentle with myself, may I be filled with loving kindness. And we just say those over and over again to connect that neural habit. You know, in the science world, they say neurons that fire together wire together. So there's so much about neural pathways out there that is the scientific verification of what the Buddha taught about karma. So whether you're a science person, whether you're an old school person, whether you're a spiritual person, it's all the same thing. Just say these phrases over and over again, right? We only need so much intellect, right? Like I said, you know it, now let's do it. So Buddhaghosa outlined a very specific way of doing this. So we say the phrases, but we do it in categories. And to modify a little bit about what he taught on this, we start with ourselves, and we wish love and kindness towards ourselves. And then we think of a friend, somebody that's easy to wish love and kindness towards. And then we say these phrases with the image of that person or feeling that person in our heart. And then, may you be at ease, may you be at peace, may you be kind and gentle with yourself, may you be filled with love and kindness. And then we set aside the image of that friend and bring up a neutral person, somebody we don't know that much. So this could be somebody that you don't even know their name, somebody that's in this room, somebody that you get your morning cup of coffee from, somebody you work with that you don't know that well, and letting this neutral person be a representative for all people. Like I said, that I did this at people at my work when I worked at the restaurant, right? Complete stranger. Okay, may you be at ease. And so we do some time wishing a complete stranger loving kindness, and then we shift into a challenging person, a difficult person, somebody we don't like, somebody we may hate, somebody we may have resentments towards. And we wish loving kindness towards this challenging, difficult person. And I'm saying internally. You know, it's good to have boundaries in life, right? But inside, no boundaries. Like we see, unconditional love, great idea. Unconditional relationships, not a good idea. Yeah, so there's all these sorts of sayings about, you know, drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That we can let somebody into our hearts without letting them into our homes. So this is the practice of letting a challenging, difficult person that we experience some friction with into our hearts and wish them loving kindness. And then we radiate it in all directions, all being everywhere, like the Buddha said. Okay? So, I'll guide you through this. We'll do, we got some time. Good. Maybe about 15, 20 minutes of loving kindness. Not a terrible thing to do. So let's find a posture that's suitable for loving kindness. In loving kindness meditation, posture isn't overly emphasized, so finding a way that's just chill and relaxed, whatever way this body feels right to hold. And if it feels right for you, allowing the eyes to close, and just easing into your posture. Maybe just giving yourself a few deep in and out breaths. And embodying the sense of ease by softening any points of tension held. Softening the face. Allowing the shoulders to rest. Softening the belly. Surrendering your body to your seat. Scanning throughout the legs and all the way down to the feet. Just embodying a sense of ease. So now I invite you to gather your awareness, guiding it even further inward towards the heart. And just breathing in and out from your own heart. And touching into your deepest intention for goodwill, for ease, for gentleness. You can lift up this intention by maybe just putting a smile on your face, or putting your hands over your heart and holding your heart, caressing your heart, bringing in a sense of touch. Smiling, holding, and being gentle with yourself. We can lift up this intention by silently saying to ourselves, may I be at ease. May I be at peace. May I be kind and gentle with myself. May I be filled with loving kindness. So over and over again, inclining the mind in this way. May I be at ease. May I be at peace. May I be kind and gentle with myself. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be at ease. May I be at peace. May I be kind and gentle with myself. May I be filled with loving kindness. Over and over again, giving yourself this gift of loving kindness. So, as we move forward in this practice of loving kindness, giving yourself a few deep in and out breaths, softening the body, and bringing to mind a good friend, someone that you feel connected with, someone that you feel happy with, someone, if they walked in the room right now, you would be excited to see them. Understanding that all people are human, but just spending time with this friend. So just bringing to mind one good friend. Begin to welcome this friend into your heart. Maybe even visualizing them face to face, eye to eye with you, smiling. Maybe just smile back as you offer loving kindness. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness towards this friend. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness. Over and over again, wishing your friend loving kindness. Giving yourself a few deep in and out breaths, softening the body, softening the heart as you set aside the image of this friend, and bringing to mind a neutral person, someone that you may not know that well. You may not even know their name. Maybe somebody you work with, or you get your morning cup of coffee from. Just bringing to mind this otherwise stranger as a representative for all people you don't know in the world. And when you find this person, welcoming them into your heart, visualizing them, smiling, happy, as you smile back and offer up loving kindness. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness towards this neutral person. Breathing in and breathing out, softening the body as you set aside the image of this neutral person. Stepping up the loving kindness a little bit by opening the heart up to a difficult person in your life, someone you have challenges with, someone that you may not like or you have conflict with, someone you may be jealous of, envious of, resentful towards. Just taking time to feel into anybody you have conflict with. Just welcoming this challenging person into your heart and into your mind, sharing a smile with them as you wish this challenging person loving kindness. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be at ease. May you be at peace. May you be kind and gentle with yourself. May you be filled with loving kindness towards this challenging person. So now, going back to the breath, going back to the body, going back to the heart as you set aside the image of this challenging person. Just feeling into the space we're in, all the sounds happening around us, the spaciousness of the room. As we begin to radiate loving kindness outward onto the world. So sending it out in front of you, direction in front of you. May all beings be at ease. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be kind and gentle with themselves. May all beings be filled with loving kindness in front of you. And behind you, may all beings be at ease. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be kind and gentle with themselves. May all beings be filled with loving kindness behind you. And in the direction to the left of you, sending it outward. May all beings be at ease. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be kind and gentle with themselves. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. And to the right of you, may all beings be at ease. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be kind and gentle with themselves. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. Upward, all the beings in the sky. Downward, all the beings in the dirt. And in all directions. Upwards to the skies, downwards to the depths, outward and inbounded in all directions. May all beings be at ease. What's up, y'all? Reverend Mikey Noechel here from Wild Heart Meditation Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks for checking us out. Do me a favor, please like and subscribe. And if you feel moved to leave a donation, you can do so at wildheartmeditationcenter.org or the Venmo link in the description. Peace and love.